So, hello everyone. We are now live. Just had to get everything turned on there. So, welcome to the latest edition of GEOSeries. Today, we have an exciting topic. I think a long-awaited topic. We're discussing the launch of Maxar's WorldView Legion satellites and the impact on Earth observation applications, specifically around Europe in our market. So we'll have three speakers for you today. We are joined by a colleague from Maxar, Andrei Efimov, and then we have Sylvester Fisher and George Ellis, both from EUSI today. And a little bit about the agenda, what we'll talk about. So I think we're all pretty excited. First four WorldView Legion satellites have been launched, so we'll get some updates from Andre on how things are going and learn a little bit more about the actual satellites, the technology, the images. We'll talk to George about what EUSI is doing to task the satellites and maybe see some scenarios, what that means for the region. And then Sylvester will touch on the impacts on projects, on actual projects in Europe on several different levels. So before we get started, a couple little housekeeping notes. The questions, we will have a live Q&A session at the end. We'll get all of us on and we'll ask as many questions as we can. Some of you already submitted some questions in sort of a pre-event survey. However, you are also welcome to submit questions in the Q&A section. To the right of your screen, you'll see some different icons. There's the chat box where we already have a couple sort of pinned messages there. And just under that is a Q&A session or Q&A section. So put your questions there. When they're there, it's very easy for us to organize them and keep track of them rather than in the chat. Feel free to chat away in the chat though, but questions in the Q&A section, please. So other than that, you'll see a few controls if you want to expand your screen and maybe cover up the chat section. You'll find those also in the top right of the display and different options for seeing the audience and everything. But I think you'll have plenty to view in the actual presentations. So I believe we are ready to get started, and I will go ahead and pass it to Andre, who will learn some facts about the WorldView Legion satellites. So take it away, Andre.
Thank you, Matthew. So my name is Andrei Efimov. I'm a sales engineer for Maxar International Government team. So practically my job is to provide and to help our partners, our customers, and our sales teams with technical information whenever is needed. I've joined Maxar like 4 years ago, and since the first day I joined, I've been hearing about Legion, I've been waiting for Legion, and I've been preparing for Legion. So I'm very happy that today we have the chance to talk about Legion not as a future capability, but as an existing capability. I will share my screen and I will show you some slides that go deeper in WorldView Legion subject. So bear with me one moment, please. Okay. So let's dive directly in. I think you all here are familiar with Maxar, and probably most of you are familiar with our current constellation. Today, Maxar operates 4 electro-optical satellites, very high-resolution satellites, that are able to collect roughly around 3.8 million square kilometers of imagery every day. And if we look at an entire year, it's more than 1.4 billion square kilometers a day. But what is new? What is new is Legion and the fact that as we speak today, one moment, as we speak today, there are 4 new satellites that are orbiting the Earth, and that's WorldView Legion. The first 2 of them were launched on May 2nd this year. Now they are in final stages of calibration and commissioning. They are already imaging. We released several sets of images from these first 2 birds, starting with July 18th. And what is more important for you is that we target the beginning of Q4 for customers to be able to place commercial orders. Maybe not all functions and capabilities will be available from the very beginning. So we target full operation capability for end of Q4. Practically then Legion imagery will be integrated in all our production systems, and all our features will be available for customers. The next batch of 2 satellites was launched on August 15, and they are undergoing now the same process of calibration and commissioning. These 2 new satellites are in mid-inclination orbits, and usually calibration of such a satellite takes a little longer because they need to drift to the right orbit first and so on. But we also learned a lot from the first 2, so we hope that we will go faster through the calibration and commissioning process. So that's today. If we look a little bit on the near and midterm future, the 5th and the 6th WorldView Legions will be launched this year by the end of the year. They are already built and they are undergoing final testing at our facilities before being shipped to the launch site. And we already have fully funded the 7th and the 8th WorldView Legion satellites, and those are envisioned to be launched in 2027. So those are a little of the milestones of WorldView Legion. Let's talk a little next about why we believe that Legion means a new era in Earth observation. And it's all about efficiency. The satellites are smaller, they have a lower weight, but have big power. And that translates into the maximum cost efficiency when we compare them to existing satellites. How is this possible? This is possible by a lot of innovation that is included in the Legion satellites. Just to name a few of them, for example, we have built a new dispenser that is a platform which allows the satellites to be launched from the rocket that takes them to space. And that allowed us to have a lot of design flexibility and make them smaller and so on. Also, it's a completely new bus. It's called Maxar 500 series that will be used for all Legions and maybe for satellites that we build for other customers. It also includes a fully new telescope that was built together with Raytheon. And a lot of smaller but important innovations. Like, for example, we use a new focal plane technology. I won't go into very much details, but that allows, all our satellites are multispectral. So they have several multispectral bands. This new focal plane technology allows us to differentiate and expose those bands much better individually. Yeah, and there are many more other innovations that are included in Legion, which makes them a very cost-efficient platform. But I don't think you are mostly interested in the hardware. I think you are more interested in the actual specs of the satellites. And this tab here gives you an overview of the specs in comparison with the only current satellite, 30 centimeter satellite that we own, and that's WorldView 3. Yeah. So we can see here that all WorldView Legions have an expected life of more than 10 years. That's a little less than WorldView 3, and that is linked to the second tab. WorldView Legions will orbit the Earth at an altitude of 518 kilometers, which is lower than WorldView 3. At lower altitudes, always the life expectancy is a little lower than at higher altitudes. Now, the first very important differentiation between Legion satellites is that the first two that were launched are sun-synchronous birds, just like all the others that we currently operate. Yeah, that means, or what is the most important, is the fact that they image every day around the same time, and that's, with one exception, 10:30 a.m. local time. The other four, so the two we launched in August and the two we're going to launch in the next month, are totally different. They will orbit the Earth in a mid-inclination orbit of 45 degrees. There are some talks about maybe changing a little bit this inclination for future MEOs, but all of them will be MEOs. Yeah. And I will come back to why this is important. Next, resolution. Yeah, all of them are 30 centimeter class satellites, and to be more precise, 34 centimeter at nadir. That allows them, for those who are familiar with the NIRS categorization, to be very high on this scale. So without going into details, the NIRS is actually saying it's an US government methodology that classifies imagery on the quality, if you want to put it in a single word. So as you can see, the quality of WorldView Legion imagery is as high, because 0.1 really doesn't matter, is as high as you are used to from 30 centimeter image in Maxar. The image width as nadir that you can expect from Legion image is 10 kilometers. And as you can see in the lower row, they will be able to collect quite a lot of image. And that is the number for square kilometers per day per each satellite. Yeah. And you can see that depending if it's a sun-synchronous or mid-inclination orbit, it's roughly around 500,000 square kilometers every day. And there are at least 6 that will be available by the end of the year. All of them are multispectral sensors, 8 multispectral bands, as you are used to from our WorldView Constellation. WorldView 2 and WorldView 3 also had 8 multispectral bands. And of course, like all Maxar satellites, they have a high geolocation accuracy, under 5 meters C90 or 1.5 meter RMSE, however you want to whatever metric you want to use. That being said, let's go back and look a little deeper on the different types of orbits. You probably are familiar with the sun-synchronous orbits. Most of the commercially available high-resolution satellites are in sun-synchronous orbits. That means coverages at all latitudes and accesses at a consistent local time of day. If we compare to SSOs, the MEOs, the most important differentiation is that they are focused on certain latitudes. In case of Legion, they are focused on latitudes between -45 and +45 degrees of latitude. Why we took that decision? Because there it's concentrated 90% of the world's population. So there is most of the interest in our imagery. There is an inconvenient, let's call it, the fact that there is no coverage at higher latitudes. That's why we still launched 2 Legions in SSO orbits. Another big advantage of the MEOs is that they do not image at the same time of the day, but they image at different times of the day. That is super critical for many of our customers, especially in defense and intelligence, who need imagery at a specific time of the day. So by combining the 2 types of satellites, we will have a constellation that is optimized to provide full daytime coverage, full latitude coverage, but also be concentrated to high interest regions. What it means for you, yeah? So first, what it means in terms of capacity. By adding the 6 new Legions this year, we will almost double Maxar's overall capacity. We will triple our capacity over those high demand areas, and we will more than triple our capacity to collect 30 centimeter class imagery. That is a huge step, yeah? And here it's an example, because always numbers are better than simple words. So if we look at the capacity per day, only 30 centimeter class imagery, today we are able to collect 680,000 square kilometers a day. With all 6 Legions, we will jump to 2.8 million square kilometers a day, only 30 centimeter class imagery, yeah? And the graph below shows you, for example, the collections per month, because usually your projects will not be just daily projects, yeah? So if we look at the color capacity, in general, color image, today we are somewhere around 70 million square kilometers per month. With Legion, we will be more than 120 million square kilometers by month. If we only look at 30 centimeter, the increase is even higher. Today, we collect maybe a little more than 20 million square kilometers per month. We will go to almost 80 million square kilometers per month, 30 centimeter imagery. But it's not all about capacity. Let's also look at what it means in terms of collections. I already hinted that we will have the ability to collect throughout the day. But depending on where are you on Earth, we will be able to have multiple revisits per day, up to 15 in some locations. Yeah? That's unprecedented for a very high resolution provider. I'm not talking about other types of imagery, but for a very high resolution image provider, that's unprecedented. And yes, they will be during different times of the day. And if you combine these multiple revisits with the abilities given by our access programs and our partners like European Space Imaging that enable customers to have simultaneous tasking, image, and downlink, yeah, then the full picture is that finally we will be able to address customer requests and projects that require near real-time monitoring. Yeah. And let's look at a graph. It's a general one, let's say, that shows how many revisits you can expect per day with Legion. And let's look at Europe, for example, and you can see the numbers. They speak for themselves, yeah, compared to today. To actually show you, because you will have your areas of interest, you are not interested in that world graphic. But I chose an example specifically not in Europe, because I want to let my colleagues at European Space Imaging to talk about Europe. I chose an example outside of Europe, but in which I think many European customers, especially in defense, are interested. And that's Phenian in North Korea. Yeah. And if you look today with the legacy constellation, we have 2 accesses per day. Yeah. I'm talking geometric accesses. I'm not talking about weather and other parameters. Geometrically, we could access the AOI 2 times a day today. With Legion alone, we will have 11 accesses. Yeah. And you can see these accesses that are spread throughout the day. That was a main requirement for many of our customers. And of course, if you combine the two, the full constellation that we will have will enable 13 accesses per day. Yeah. Indeed, this is at 1 meter GSD. Yeah. Most of our customers want better than that. So my next slides will show you accesses over the same area, detailed at 50 centimeter GSD. Yeah, that's what most of our customers need. So I've taken a week interval, and let's look. So with the current constellation, we have 9 accesses per week. Yeah. And all of them you can see are around 10:30 a.m. Local time. This is GMT time. That's why you see it in the night, but it's GMT time. If we only add the 2 legions that are almost ready for commercial tasking, we already get, so only with the SSOs, we already get to 16 accesses per week. And if we add all 6 legions and look at the accesses here, you can directly see the difference between the sun-synchronous orbits and the mid-inclination orbits. We jump to 49 accesses per week. There are a lot of them. I don't think you can see very well the times of the passes, but they are spread throughout the whole day. So I think that's unprecedented for Maxar. and it will be a big boom for our customers. And finally, let's look a little of what you can expect to see in the imagery that we deliver from Legion. I already explained it's gonna be 30 centimeter class imagery. You saw the NIRS number, so the quality that you can expect in terms of resolution and interpretability of the image is what you are used to from WorldView 3. Also, as always, Maxar will offer the highest geolocation accuracy under 5 meter C90. And finally, a differentiator that I think it's a little not very well explained in the market, but we believe that is very important, is that with Legion, you will also get 8 multispectral bands that enable customers to do various types of analysis using various types of band combinations available via Legion. So, for example, you are able to do vegetation analysis using the multispectral bands, and you will be able to do it even better than you were able to do it with WorldView 3 or WorldView 2. General land cover, being able to distinguish between different types of man-made objects versus natural objects, even identifying, for example, materials on the land and in the subsurface. So we are really here. If some of you are really interested in this kind of use cases, we can help with that. So finally, let's see some nice imagery from WorldView Legion. These are already released to the public. This is San Francisco, for example. Again, San Francisco, some soccer fields, and you can really see the people here on the soccer field. Or this is a port in Sacramento in the US. And look at the details that are visible on the ship. Or, for example, I will go over a few of them. This is a very nice image of Singapore taken, especially with the big of nadir angle. So you see it looks like 3D, but it's not. It's just a simple 2D image. And some more images that we already have taken with Legion all over the world. Yeah. With that, I'll give the floor back to Matt, and we are here for questions at the end. Thank you.
So thanks, Andre. That was a great presentation. I think we learned a lot, and we'll pass it over to George now. He's going to talk a bit about how we task the WorldView Legion satellites and what that looks like for us in this region. Take it away, George.
Thank you. Thank you, Andre, for this excellent introduction into the Legion constellation. And I will try to share my screen also here. If you bear a second with me. Screen. Entire screen. There we go. So hopefully you should be able to see my presentation start screen now. So I would like to talk a little bit about the ground station we have in Oberpfaffenhofen near Munich, and the changes that we did to it, and how we plan to utilize the Legion constellation that's going to be integrated in the coming weeks into our ground station. So we have, together with Maxar, actually, we have spent more than 1 year upgrading our ground station and optimizing our operational workflows. By November this year, we will be directly tasking and downlinking the new Maxar WorldView Legion Satellites. So this is really immediate now, and we are ready to do it. And with the upgrades we already implemented, we are now already improved on the real-time capabilities that we can deliver images in up to 15 minutes after collection. I will have an example on this in a minute or so. The new ground station also allows for parallel processing of several near real-time orders at once. In the past, we could do them only sequentially. Now we should be able to do a couple of NRT images at the same time and deliver them in a time frame of 15 to 20 minutes then. Last but not least, the new ground station also features improved security and data protection. So the infamous or famous 15-minute near real-time option that we offer, I think we are the only entity that can do this, because we task the satellites and we downlink them locally and we distribute them locally from our ground station. So this is because at EUSI operations, we are constantly asked for the same thing by our sales and customer support teams, like faster data delivery. Now we have to go down from 1 hour to half an hour to 15 minutes. Naturally, these requests come from some of our most important customers, like the EMSA, Frontex, the EU Satellite Center, ESA, and the many European MODs. So because of this, we developed and improved our infrastructure and workflows to meet these demands. Here's a real life example of what we did. On 12th of October, we received an order from ESA to collect some wildfire regions in Greece, and we had the next satellite path coming over the region on 13th of August at 9:31 UTC. We collected the images, processed it, and delivered it to the customer server within 14 minutes. So by 9:45, the customer had the image already on their servers. Here you can see what also André mentioned before. You see the improved number of accesses over communication cones here. We went from 1 access every 2 to 3 days in 2000 using Icono satellite 80 centimeter to very soon up to 15 accesses every day in 2024 with mostly 30 centimeter resolution and some 50 centimeter resolution. And you can see this color coded on these charts here going from top left to lower right. We did the calculation for a couple of cities in our ComCone. You see in blue the current access we have with the current WorldView satellites, the legacy constellation, and in orange you see the improvement in accesses over the cities of Edinburgh, in this case Milan and Cairo, which is at 56, 45, and 30 degrees northern latitude. Because the Legion Neos are flying at 45-degree latitude, Milan will see the biggest improvement in access. But the number of accesses are now much more evenly spread out between north and south. If you look at the total numbers, going from Edinburgh from 174 to Milan to 278 and Cairo to 196 per month per 30 days period. So it's a little bit more even, or much more even than it had been in the past, where only northern latitudes saw a real high number of accesses, and the further south you went, the worse the number of accesses became. Here is a concrete example of how the MEOs would figure into regions like the east of a ComCone. Historically, the eastern part of EUSI ComCone has always been of the highest interest to many of our customers. a situation that has dramatically intensified in recent years for obvious reasons. Obvious and very unfortunate reasons, but that's the way it is. Here we have an example how the access increases over the Crimean Peninsula where we utilize the new Legion constellation. And as you can see here, on the example day I picked, there are 10 passes over the Crimea Peninsula. This allows for multiple intraday collections. And many of them will fly essentially east to west, which are the MEOs that peak at this latitude, roughly. If we zoom out a little bit more, you see that the new sun-synchronous Legion satellites, as well as the MEO satellites, will relieve a lot of pressure in our COM cone, essentially also in the east of our COM cone. Naturally, many customers are from the intelligence community, but there are also a ton of other applications for mapping, research, and other commercial applications that will benefit from the increased access in our COM cone. I mentioned this before, and also Andrei mentioned this, the intraday imaging capabilities that the Legion will allow. Clearly, emergency response intelligence tasks will benefit from this, as I mentioned, but also maritime authorities, border security, and last not least, with the often complicated and dynamic weather patterns we see over Europe, intraday imaging allows to plan kind of around the clouds to some degree. I have an example here over the harbor town of Taranto in Italy. During the past summer, we see that it was cloudy like all day. At 8 UTC it was cloudy, at 11 UTC it was cloudy, and only at 14 UTC it would have been possible to collect a usable image. And the MEO Legions will allow us to do that in the future. So even if the weather is cloudy, like 10 out of 12 hours, it's very likely that you get a good image and you shoot between the clouds, so to speak. Another real-life example is not using the Legion satellites, but the existing legacy constellation already. It was an image we took over Gaza on 23rd of May at 8 UTC with one sensor, and at 8:48 UTC with another sensor. And as you can see, some clouds have moved in and out of the region, and this intraday collection made it possible to get a clear image of the region just like less than an hour after the first attempt. But it's not only trying to shoot between the clouds, it's also if you want to see things like ship activity, in this case in Aegean Sea. Here you have an example that is 11 past 9 and half past 9 on the same day, and you see ships moving in and out the region, and you can detect the activity going on there. So clearly, intraday collection capabilities is super helpful for many customers and many applications. On top of this, what Andrei also mentioned, it's also the increased capability and coverage that Legion will make possible. Here we have a case study. We had a project, or it's still ongoing actually, where we have to collect all of Greece. And we started in March of this year. And to collect all of the mainland Greece and all of the Greek islands in the Aegean Sea. On this map, comprised of browse images that we collected, you see by mid-September 2024, we were almost done. There remain only a few white spots on the map. And you think that's not bad, actually. So it was done from March to September. But once this project comes back, hopefully in the not too distant future, this is how we expect the progress to look like. In blue, the blue dots and the blue line is the actual progress. We're using the Maxar Legacy constellation of WorldView 2, 3, and GEOI. And so we started in March, and we expect the project to finish sometime around October, by mid of October. And if we apply the extra capabilities of Legion, and that's a very conservative assumption that we used here, we should have been done by beginning of July already, which means like 40 to 50% faster or 3 to 4 months faster than is possible currently. And this is always helpful for customers. We should be able to get even less cloudy images because we have more opportunities, as I mentioned before, to shoot around the clouds. We hit more on the one specific season, like the vegetation season in summer and spring. That's not spread out into the winter time in the region. So this is what we expect. Legion will very soon find out. Actually, this is very conservative. I believe that they will perform actually better than what we saw in our calculations, because we were trying to assume not too much and keep it very conservative. So the actual numbers might look even better. So yeah, I kept this really, really short, and Sylvester will take you further into possible applications of the Legion constellation. But I hope I was able to give you at least a brief insight on how we're going to utilize these unique capabilities that Legion constellation will offer to our customers. And I will be happy to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. Thank you.
So thanks, George. Yeah, that was great. I think a bit of the audio quality was low at points, but I think we all got what you were saying and what you were showing. And luckily, there'll be recording, so everyone can always go back through and crank their volume up a little bit and watch those slides again.
Do I have to redub it for the video?
Actually, now your quality sounds a little bit better. So
that's weird.
All good though, so no problems. And now we'll go to Sylvester, and he'll talk about a few real-world projects. I know George actually already presented one, but Sylvester will present some others and a little bit more on the impacts on some projects and customers in Europe. So.
Okay, thank you very much. As mentioned, I am Sylvester. I'm sales manager at European Space Imaging, and I'm responsible for our business within Spain and Austria, and especially also I'm dealing with all our activities together with ESA, European Space Agency, such as the Copernicus program. And of course, like all of you, I've been very excited since a longer time now for Legion to come. And of course, the first question for me as a sales manager is, what is the impact of Legion now? How can it improve my projects I'm doing together with our customers? Yeah, and the same question as you are having as a customer, asking yourself, okay, what is Legion giving me now? And yeah, we have seen many important aspects from Andre and George, more capacity, intraday visit, these kind of things. And I would like to put this now more in the real context of projects I'm working on. Of course, it's not showing the full reality yet because it's not fully operational yet in Legion, but we have models in place. Our operations team, they are calculating feasibilities and they're calculating the possibilities, and they are quite close to reality, honestly, with the WorldView constellation, and also for Legion, they are able to calculate that very accurately. Okay, and this is what I will basically present here. Let me quickly share my screen. Right. Good. I would like to start, as mentioned, ESA Copernicus is one of my major projects. So I would like to put that into the context of Legion. Yeah, I guess Copernicus is basically known very well to all of you. It's an initiative launched by the European Commission. It's about gathering knowledge within 6 different domains like ocean, atmosphere, climate change, land, emergency, and security. And for that reason, they have an infrastructure of in situ sensors for gathering data. Plus, of course, from space, they are gathering data through satellites like the Sentinel. and also taking in commercial data from commercial providers such as EUSI and Maxar. This together is then collecting the data for the services. Since 2012, we are contributing here to the especially land emergency and security service. And what we have experienced over the years is that the demand really became more and more complex, more and more difficult. As for example, the land service, they demand a full European coverage, at best to be collected within 1 year with different parameters. The emergency service, for example, they would like to have even at least daily or sub-daily imagery delivered very, very quickly, at best within 15 minutes. The security service, for example, they want the best possible resolution, which is 30 centimeter, to see the highest detail. We have been in a position, even until now, with the WorldView constellation to deliver that to a very high level. But of course, we have also seen gaps here and space for improvements. And for sure, we believe that, and we are, it's clear that Legion will help a lot here to close the gap to a very, high level. Coming to the first example, the land service, as mentioned, they are asking for European coverages, basically covering all of Europe with more than 6 million square kilometer in a resolution of 2 up to 4 meter multispectral, corresponding to 50 centimeter panchromatic. They need it every 3 years at the moment. But at the best, it should be collected within 1 vegetation period as far as possible. And many challenges we are facing here. Of course, the project area is quite large. This is clear, difficult to achieve. And additionally, they restrict the off-nadir angles even down to something like 25 degrees. It must be cloud and haze free all over Europe, which is difficult because you always have cloud somewhere. And it should be done within not only 1 year, within 3 to 4 months, which is the vegetation period. And it's clear that not one mission can deliver that. So far, it always had been it had been done within a group of basically all VHR providers to achieve that goal. Here I'm showing now basically a share what could be done by us or was done in the past for these kind of projects. So we worked on a share of Europe around 1.3 million square kilometer. And of course, we are doing feasibilities here first. And this is a feasibility done towards 5% cloud cover. We'd always take into account the weather here and internal conflicts, of course, to get a real a feeling of reality. And before Legion, only with WorldView, we reached levels in a 4-month period around 0.9 million square kilometer or 70% completion. And of course, in the southern parts, we are stronger. In the northern part, it's more difficult due to the weather. But these are results we can achieve basically with WorldView. And the same feasibility with same parameters. I asked just recently my colleagues in the operations team to redo it, taking Legion into account. And the result is really something which is promising, I have to say. We come to a level of 95% of completion, around 1.24 million square kilometer, and much better results we can expect here in the future. And these kind of projects, these large coverage projects, we will get faster, much better results for sure. I have to say, sure, these are feasibilities, not 100% reality, but they are really very well trained, and usually they're really quite close to what we can expect. The second one, the emergency service or response we are doing here. Since 2012, we have been contributing here with rising orders. This is something where national authorities can ask for data in case of an earthquake, volcano eruption, flooding, or forest fires. This is really something, a very hot topic currently. We're doing a lot. In 2023, we had over 250 orders here, delivering around 80,000 square kilometer to the service. So it's a very, very growing project we are doing here. One example which is well suited to show the impact of Legion, I would like to refer to the earthquake over Anatolia, February last year in 2023. Devastating event on February the 6th. It happened at 2:30, more or less, within 7.8 magnitude, which is really, really very, very high. It destroyed buildings, infrastructures, caused many, many deaths, unfortunately. And the authorities, they activated soon after, immediately, the emergency service. And we received after, within 3 hours, an activation of more than 20 AOIs, 21 to be exact, over major settlements in that area. Our feasibility at that time brought out that this is a bit too much. Usually the emergency service, they wanted even on the next day, the first image. And the amount of AOIs and combined with the WorldView constellation in that area, it was difficult for us to deliver it everything within 1 day, regardless of the weather, even, let's say just regardless of cloud, just delivering something was not fully possible. It took us up to 3 days to cover all these AOIs, at least with one image. And we did the same. Or basically, Legion, of course, can do it better. This is clear. For sure, more collection opportunities will help. We can even offer same-day collections, as shown by Andre and George. We are more flexible to the weather condition, and we can deliver faster within 15 minutes due to our upgraded ground station now. And the same feasibility had been done recently by our operations team. And from the physical access, it turned out that easily we can cover all AOIs within 24 hours now. Especially the mid-inclined orbits are really helping here in that area of Middle East, giving a lot of more additional access. So this is a real advantage now, which we will be able to offer to the emergency service. Security service again also is asking a lot for VHR imagery. Security service is mainly strongly used by Frontex. They are monitoring the European borders to get an overview of the situations. And one area they often look on is Melilla or Ceuta, European enclaves on the northern African coast. Strongly secured, but still it's an area where, of course, many people try to enter illegally, and it's Frontex job to monitor and to get the right data here to secure these kind of areas. And especially they need a 30 centimeter data to monitor the surrounding to get the highest detail, and this is really needed here. And Legion is a big step further here to provide 30 centimeter data. For the 20th of June, we have done another feasibility, taking Legion into our WorldView constellation, and it shows the white ones, GEOI1, WorldView 3, WorldView 2. So on that day, we had 3 possible accesses here, and only WorldView 3 with 30 centimeter, only one. It can even happen, depending on the position, that we have days without a WorldView 3, without a 30 centimeter image then. And here with Legion, we are able to add 6 possible collections on top during the day, from the morning up to the afternoon. So we have 1 WorldView 3 plus 6 Legion 30 centimeter options to collect. And this is really perfect for the security service. Right. So I was now showing our larger Copernicus European accounts where I was trying to give you an idea how also for your projects it can be an advantage, or it can grow your projects, it can advance your projects. And for sure, also for smaller projects, for every project, it will be an advantage. The better service, as mentioned. And we believe that we with Legion can really contribute to your projects and also to the overall Earth observation market. And because there are studies around, of course, the market is growing. This is clear. All studies go in the same direction. This is one shown here from global mapping insights. They expect to double the market within 10 years. And of course, for doubling or for growing, you need the right infrastructure. You need the imagery for that. And Legion will be one factor here to provide that imagery to grow the market also. Another example, now a smaller one, but we like these kind of projects too. From the environmental area, it's a wildlife conservation organization we are cooperating here. And what they are doing, they're analyzing habitats or simply counting animals. Yeah, this is what they are doing. And this is one project they used to do it in the past. It was really difficult, we have to admit, counting red deer over Scotland. They needed 30 centimeter data for doing that. We had to deal with very narrow collection windows during the autumn mating season. Difficult weather, of course. Scotland is not known for the best sunny weather. And the behavior of deer is also, they're not really doing what we would prefer to collect the imagery. They are mainly active during the morning and the early evening times. With the WorldView Constellation, it was difficult to capture, not possible really to capture it. So we had to hope they would approach more during noontime, which they usually wouldn't do. So it was difficult for us. And we are looking forward to do another project with our customers for that customer with Legion now. Because now we are able to capture throughout the day. We have more collection opportunities. We have intraday access, and for sure we will be more happy, and our customer will also be more happy with these kind of topics now. I'm at the end with my projects now. Of course, there are more projects. You will have more projects. You can also take into account. We are happy to make feasibilities for you also, taking Legion into account. And I would give back to Matthew now, and we can continue with the question maybe.
All right. Thank you, Sylvester. Yeah, I think those were some great use cases there that you're able to present, both from a perspective of large governmental projects, as well as trying to include some of the smaller, what we would call street business sometimes, and some of the commercial projects as well. So, so now we've come to the live Q&A portion. A lot of you attendees have put some great questions in the chat. We also had a survey go out in the past couple weeks. Everyone received it, but maybe some of you didn't see it either way. So some people submitted some questions beforehand. So we have, I think, some great things to chat about here. So I will start off with a question to Andre. We have, so the WorldView Legion satellites are a bit smaller than the legacy Maxar satellites. I think you did mention the size of it. However, how do they compare to small sat constellations from other providers? What does this mean in terms of sensor payload, image quality, scene sizes, capacity, etc.?
Yes, very good question. And we've been hearing similar questions from customers and even from our competition, who was trying to say, look, Legion, they are small sats. Well, they are not at all. Indeed, the size of the satellites is smaller. Imagine WorldView 3, for example, as the size of almost the size of a bus, while Legion is the size of an SUV, let's say. But due to all the technical innovations that we included in Legion, the capabilities of the satellite are not comparable to a small sat. And I showed some numbers during the presentation, but I'll state it again. Let's take WorldView 3, our existing 30 centimeter satellite. The collection capacity of it's 750,000 square kilometers per day. Yeah. Legion capacity is around 500,000 square kilometers per day. So with 2 Legions, let's take the 2 SSOs, we are able to collect 1,050,000 square kilometers a day. So 1.5 times more than WorldView 3 with 2 satellites, and we have 6. Yeah. So there is no comparison to a small sat. The same in terms of image quality and the others that you mentioned. And I will add one more fact. Our main competitor, satellites, without giving names here, collects 500,000 square kilometers a day. Very similar to Legion, so no small sat.
Yeah, so I think it is a question that comes up quite often. In fact, I was just in a conversation the other day, and it was out on a terrace somewhere, and somebody was asking about the size of the actual satellites, and I was looking around for a good size automobile to show them. There were actually several tiny automobiles parked on the street. I was thinking, well, none of these are quite the right size. Look more towards this large van over there, and I think it's a bit larger than people expect. Maybe because some of the messaging has said that they are smaller than the legacy satellites. However, you do still need some size in there for this payload, for the optics and for the sensor payload. I think it's there's sacrifices that you make with size, certainly, and so I think these satellites are really riding between, above the small sat classification, which allows them to really have that advanced technology in the payload. So, Sylvester, I think I've got a question here that is good for you. Yes, it's directly referencing something you presented. You seem to present that EUSI could nearly complete this entire land coverage project alone, which you presented. Is this realistically possible, or something that your company, or as a sort of a project manager, you would even pursue?
Basically, I have we have done the calculation for an area of 1.3 million square kilometer, which is just a portion of all of Europe, of course. But for sure, we will improve our capacities here. And from a physical perspective, I mean, what I was showing was even taking into account weather condition. If we would take out the weather completely in cloud cover and just calculate it from a physical perspective, and taking into account more coming Legion, Andrei mentioned even Legion 7 and 8, it will get better and better, of course. But we must be realistic. I mean, we still have clouds over Europe, even in the future. This is not something we can get rid of. And it's still going to be difficult, of course. And I still think this is still something where the industry has to work together to achieve these kind of overall European coverages.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you touched on it a bit. I think you and George both, when you talked about the sort of simulated projects and these feasibility studies, that they they weren't necessarily done under perfect conditions, but yeah, they are sort of ideal conditions. And I'd say it's probably actually a larger topic for another day on how feasibilities are presented to customers and specifically to for tendering processes, which is why it is good to tone it down a bit, be realistic in a conversation like this, I think, and yeah, say, okay, on paper, yeah, we could finish this project with 95% completion. But realistically, I think we need to be working together in consortiums to actually complete.
I would like to add, Matthew, especially the last 5% are really difficult. This is the problem here. You can get it quite high to 99, 95%, but then the gaps, you have clouds somewhere, and this is difficult. And
yeah,
so it's not the problem; it's the challenge.
Yes, a challenge.
It's the challenge.
We only have challenges, I know.
The last 5%, that's probably true with everything, in every project, in every application, in everyone's lives. So that last 5% is always the most challenging. We could say that with Maxar and getting these actually launched. You know, as you said, Andre, waiting those years, it was those last few percent that took some time. So, question for George, or maybe anyone else wants to speak on it as well. With the 4 mid-inclined orbiting Legion satellites being set to a 45-degree inclination, where do you think, just personally, this leaves the higher latitudes in the European region, or technically globally?
Okay, that's an excellent question. In fact, Andre also touched on this very briefly and said that there might be a possibility that 2 more Legions might fly in a slightly different angle. We are in contact with Maxar, and from our point of view, it would be very positive if Maxar could raise the orbital inclination to 50-something degrees, so we can all cover the UK and Ireland and all of France and all of Germany, Poland, Ukraine, by the way, which is an issue that's not going to go away, unfortunately, for the coming years, we assume. So if you go in a slightly higher inclination, that would allow us to cover those areas better. It's not that these areas are not covered yet with the polar satellites, but playing around with the inclination might change the game. And we are talking to Maxar and make our point clear that for Europe, the majority of the population doesn't live below 45 degrees. It lives around 50 degrees, roughly now, 50, 55. That's like between the UK and France. That's mostly highly populated Belgium, Holland, Germany, Poland, Western Russia. So I think the last word has not been spoken yet. 45 degrees will work. But for us personally, as a company, I think 55, 58 degrees for one set of the satellites would be better, even better, let's put it this way. And by the way, I have to apologize for the audio issues that apparently I caused. I didn't change anything. I hope you can hear me now clearly.
Seems to be okay now. Yeah.
So I did not change things. I just talked during my presentation, so I don't know what was going on there. So sorry about that. I think I have to redub it.
I think it'll probably be fine. So
especially
as people can listen back in the recording.
I do have a quick question there. I have a quick question because I see so many excellent questions in the Q&A, and I think we have no chance to address them all. I guess we'll put that in writing then. Is that true?
Yeah, so every question will get answered one way or another. Some have already been answered via the chat window. Others will stick around afterward, and we have a couple moderators in the back end that will continue answering them, even if they need to exchange email addresses with the attendees to get those answered.
Because I'm impressed to see all these really excellent questions, and it would be a bad thing not to answer them, really.
Yeah, this is the case when we do these webinars. We have quite an engaged audience all the time, and there's always more questions than we could possibly answer live. But luckily, there's always a team of folks behind me on the other side of this wall that are chugging away at getting some of those answered via text. But I have a couple more here. If you don't mind, I'm going to pass this one to Andre. This one was in the chat earlier. Some of you would have seen. The WorldView Legion satellites were originally and oftentimes promoted as 29 centimeter GST, collecting at 29 centimeters. Why now the shift to 34 centimeters?
Yeah, another question that we hear all the time. Well, actually, from the beginning, there were two options: 29 or 34. Yeah. The decision has been made that the first 6 legions will be flying at an altitude that allows them to collect a 34 centimeter resolution. But the satellites themselves are able to collect a 29 centimeter resolution. So we are constantly reviewing, and at one moment, it can be a decision to lower the orbit, so Legion collects at 29 centimeter resolution. On why the decision was taken is because we weighted the advantages and disadvantages. And while there are some advantages at collecting a 29 centimeter resolution, the disadvantages were deemed more important, and those being the fact that you can collect less imagery at 29, yeah? And second, that the life expectancy of the birds would be lower at a lower orbit. And I would add a personal note to the explanation, and that is that, in my personal opinion, there are extremely few cases when, even if you are at you have a possibility to collect a 29, you will always have a certain off-nadir angle. So in reality, you will never collect exactly at 29 centimeter. And that is not a Maxar issue, it's just physics. All providers of satellite image have an off-nadir but resolution, but in reality, they collect a different resolution based on the passes that they have. And at the end, the image is delivered at, let's say, 30 centimeter, but it's collected actually at 31, 33, 35, and so on.
Yeah, I think as you said, I imagined that it was basically weighing those pros and cons, some marginal increases in image clarity, but then losing that footprint on the other end, and sort of weighing what are the customers asking for, a couple more centimeters resolution or more capacity at the moment. And I would say that those sort of crunching those numbers on the market analytics there at Maxar, and probably some consultants and a lot of work went into making that decision. But like you said, the ability to be flexible and lower those later on, I'm sure decisions are easier to make once all 6 and maybe even a 7 and 8 are flying in the future, and maybe it's yeah, sure, let's lower a couple down. So
and
yeah, we'll
I would add something about 5 and 6, but mostly about 7 and 8. There are a lot of changes that can happen for 7 and 8. There were some questions in the panel, for example, about SWIR.
Yeah.
SWIR might exist on 7 and 8. It doesn't on the first 6, but might exist. Orbit might be lower, and many other adjustments can be made because the technology is very flexible.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, I we have had questions in the past also about why are there no why are the Legion satellites not collecting the SWIR bands? And yeah, again, I chalk it up to business decisions. You know, you have to weigh the pros and cons, and you know, at the very least, there's always that demonstrator of WorldView 3, which I think collects actually quite high quality SWIR imagery. So yeah, like you said, the 7 and 8 aren't, if they come, they're not built yet. There's a lot that can happen with them. So quick question. We'll try to sneak in like 1 or 2 more questions here. I think this would actually be for George. Some of it might be obvious. Some of it we may have touched on, and I think the moderators already answered in the chat a little bit as well. In regards to collecting over water, specifically open ocean, what advantages do you see with the Legion satellites? This could pertain a little bit to the actual technology. I imagine a little more in the direction of the capacity revisits and daily opportunities, but maybe you see it differently.
Well, operationally speaking, obviously, if you have more access, all the things that we mentioned before apply, that you just have better chances to collect your target under conditions. And this, for water, actually includes one more parameter that is not so much the case over land, and that's like sun glint, which is a really big factor over water. So if you have more accesses over one target that potentially has this sun glint, which nobody wants, also due to the wave action could be, you have more angles that you can collect it from east or west or south or north, the chances that you get a usable images over water should also be greatly increased. We do need some operational experience with this, but in theory, it should be a clear case. The more often, the more different viewing angles you have over a complicated target, sun glint wise, the better your chances are. That's how I would view this.
Yeah, that's what I imagined as well. Yeah, George, I would say, is the resident sun glint expert here. We've even had him on a previous edition where he presented on some of those topics as well. So if that is something, the couple people that put that in the chat, if that's something of interest, then yeah, I'd recommend checking out the previous some of the previous episodes, or even writing to us, and you can really get some detailed presentations on how the operations team evaluates and avoids sun glint. It's not something that can always just be automated away in automated planning systems. And then I'm going to throw in one last quick question for Sylvester. Will the new WorldView Legion data be ingested into the ESA TPM platform for access by researchers, academics, and other qualified users? This was a question in our chat here.
Of course, we will include Legion into all of our programs, projects, also for our ESA programs like third-party mission. There's a process we have to pass. We have to work on with ESA for data quality assessment. And once we have the option to provide test data, we will start that process. And it takes a while, of course, to pass all steps necessary, but we will work on it, and as fast as possible, we will be able to offer it also through the third-party mission to research projects, for startups. They can ask through that program for free data, basically. Then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. There's always a lot of chat in the Q&A section in these webinars, and in general, about price and accessibility, and of course, price for high quality data is always going to be a barrier. But I think as far as for qualified research and academic purposes, if you're not familiar with the ESA TPM, I suggest looking into it. You can also contact EUSI, and Sylvester or one of his colleagues here can definitely point you in the right direction, because there are oftentimes users in these sessions that are asking how, as an academic institution or a non-for-profit or academic related research project, can I get my hands on the data? And I think yeah, we can always do more to increase that uptake probably into TPM and promote that a little more, because it's a great source for that. As a company, EUSI also offers discounts to certain qualified academic users, but it's I think even nothing compared to what you can get through the ESA TPM. So. All right. So Any other questions? Actually, I think our Q&A section is cleared, so the moderators have done well, it looks like. I want to thank all three of you, Sylvester, George, and Andre. I want to thank Maxar in general for supporting the webinar. I think we're all really excited about starting to task these satellites, seeing the next ones launch, seeing what the future holds for any additions to the constellation. And I want to thank everyone that joined us today and were engaged, asking a lot of questions, all of the moderators answering the questions. And please feel free to reach out to any of us here that are on the stage or to EUSI for any questions that you have, and we'll definitely get you pointed in the right direction. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.